I'm sick and tired of you dropping boats on me all the time.
You shot me in the shoulder and blew up my house. I don't want to hear it.
You shot me in the head.
You told me to.
What? When? Hey, Rio?
No, I will not shoot you in the head.
That doesn't count. Look, I'm sorry I shot you and blew up your house and forced you to watch Dragon Ball Evolution.
I'm sorry I shot you in the head and broke your goggles.
What about forcing me to watch Fate Collide Liner?
You asked me what I thought would get views.
Why, you little... Okay, we're cool.
I got them on sale.
Okay. So, any chance you want to help me with my next review?
Sure, what you watching anyways?
I was about to watch part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Hey, that's my favorite one. Come on. It's been a while since I've seen part 2. It's going to be good.
I've requested they bring in backup.
A backup? What, huh? Who, huh? Where?
Jotaro, what are you doing?
It's said the more foolish you are, the younger you die.
I'll stop you.
Blade?
Yeah?
What is this?
This is part 2 of JoJo.
No, it's not. JoJo's art style is supposed to be more wild, the colors are supposed to be dramatically inconsistent, everyone's supposed to be louder, and every character is supposed to make you question your own sexuality.
Every character?
Every character.
Well, this is the first animated adaptation from 1993.
Oh, you mean the OVA that no one talks about?
I guess?
Well, it's still JoJo. May as well give it a whirl.
Are we watching the right show? What's with the random topless woman and the human sacrifice ritual?
Oh, this is showing us the stone mask and where it came from. How it works.
What stone mask?
You don't know about the stone mask? How much JoJo have you watched?
Part 1 of this OVA and a few meme clips.
Okay. I'll be brief. The stone mask is an ancient Aztec artifact that can turn the wearer into a vampire if blood touches it. That's what those claw things are doing right here. And the reason it's showing Dio's coffin being dragged up at the same time is because Dio is also a vampire.
That would explain why he survived for 100 years and can steal Jonathan's body.
You didn't know that either?
Well, part 1 of the OVA never flat out said that Dio was a vampire. We saw him stab a woman in the neck with his fingers, but that doesn't explain anything since vampires usually drink blood.
Well, yes, Dio is a vampire. That's why he absorbs blood and is still alive.
You think that something that important would be worth mentioning? That's like forgetting to tell us that King Arthur is actually a woman.
You see why no one talks about this version? Anyways, to prevent myself from ranting too much, I'll only bring up differences from the manga and modern anime if it's actually worth pointing out.
Resuming our story, or I guess starting, since this episode came out 7 years before the last one we watched, we find doctors monitoring Holly's medical state as the stand that she's manifesting is killing her, and we see the vines tie themselves around the stone mask, which, again, just going by the OVA, has not been seen up until now.
That's a major problem with this adaptation. You said this came out first?
Yeah, part 2 of this OVA came out in 1993, and the first half came out in the year 2000.
And at that time, the JoJo manga wasn't localized here in the States, so that means that anyone here who picked it up and started watching it would be completely lost with all these throwbacks to previous arcs. Or, hell, at this point, the Crusaders are already in Egypt. If this was the first episode released, we're given no context, no world building, and it's starting us in the middle of the third arc. That's like having never seen Star Wars before and deciding to start with The Last Jedi. There's so much that leads into this that the audience would be completely unaware of.
Maybe this is a worse adaptation than I thought. I don't normally like to do these kind of edits, but I found out something after most of the recording had already been done. I went back and did some further research, and it turns out that I got the dates wrong for the North American release. The entire OVA series was actually dubbed in English and then released starting in 2003 in chronological order. So for the average American viewer, they could have started in chronological order if they wanted to. But our comments about the throwbacks still hold true because, again, the JoJo manga wasn't localized at that point, so the parts about the stone mask and other elements that you'll see later in this review would still be lost on the American audience. Sorry for the interruption, back to the review.
We joined the Joestar crew out in the middle of the desert.
What is that, a helicopter?
It's Speedwagon Foundation.
Speedwagon Foundation.
What happened to Jotaro?
What do you mean?
Well, he didn't look like that for the past 7 episodes.
This design is more accurate to the manga, but as the JoJo fandom knows, Araki hates a consistent art style. The helicopter is meeting up with the Crusaders to drop off their newest party member, a new stand user who controls the stand known as the Fool.
Is that a dog?
His name is Iggy, and he loves to pull and chew on human hair.
Get off, you damn dog! I'll teach you a lesson! Shenanigan!
To put it simply, it is a stand of the sand.
Okay, that's freaking awesome.
Do you have some of his favorite treats?
Yep, there's no way we could have brought him here without it. Hey, don't let him see the box!
He has a big weakness for coffee-flavored chewing gum, but Iggy is the type who will never allow himself to be tamed.
Meanwhile, off in the far reaches of the desert, the enemy heard everything they just said.
This is Ndul the Blind Man, and his stand is called Gip. The Crusaders load up their truck and head off, finding a big plume of smoke.
That is in the direction the helicopter was headed.
They find the Speedwagon Foundation's chopper crashed into the ground, and one of the pilots apparently drowned in the middle of the desert. They find the second pilot off by himself.
Here, my friend. It's water.
No! No! The water! It's attacking me!
Holy shit!
They quickly realize this is the work of an enemy stand, but they can't detect where the user is hiding.
It then sneaks up on Polnareff and Calculane.
That felt a little bit awkward.
What, the way he just stared at it until it clawed his face off?
Not just that, they did it wrong.
What do you mean?
It's common in many anime to have a drawn out moment like this, with or without a color change. But usually it's meant for a dramatic purpose, and we can usually hear the thoughts of the one who is witnessing whatever the event may be. In JoJo specifically, the colors usually change to reflect the drama, be it a character getting injured or something important about to happen. Even if this wasn't frequently done in a colored manga, it's a staple of the anime adaptation. It's hard to nail down exactly when or why it happens specifically, but to summarize, it's almost never for a normal circumstance. So in this instance, it could be perceived as a dramatic slow-mo shot. But in this version, they don't include that, so it just comes across as stiff and clunky.
I think I get what you mean. I remember seeing a similar thing happening in the second Gundam compilation movie. When Crowley Hammond launched her attack on White Base, she manages to get behind the Gundam and is about to fire, which would cause the explosives in her cargo carrier to go off, destroying the Gundam and White Base. The color changes here, and she and Amuro both give a few lines of dialogue, but despite them actually speaking verbally, it comes across as more of an inner monologue, and time seems to have slowed down.
Yeah, you got the idea.
Another thing that I'll note is that in the first part from Y2K, they also don't do the comic panel style splits or the effects right here.
Combine those with the change in art style you mentioned earlier, and it seems that at least the first episode that was produced seemed to be trying to be more faithful than they tried to be with what you've watched so far.
Geb goes in for another attack, but the alarm on the dead pilot's watch starts beeping, and the Water Claw attacks it instead of Polnareff. From this, our heroes rightfully deduce that it attacks whatever it hears, rather than what it's seeing.
The Crusaders managed to get back to their truck and flee the scene, but Ndul heard the whole thing. Geb manages to catch up to the gang and punches a hole in their water containers, adding more liquid to its mass and making it stronger.
You will suffocate.
That was embarrassing.
Yes, I already talked about that last episode.
Avdol uses his flames to disperse the water, but Geb then goes after the water inside the truck's radiator. He attacks Old Man Jojo and causes the truck to flip. Iggy apparently is out of to give and lays down for a nap.
Geb begins destroying objects one by one, being unable to actually see where each person is. Before he can finish off Polnareff, Avdol begins throwing his wrist bangles to make them sound like footsteps, trying to lure Geb away.
It almost works, but Ndul figures out that it was a trap. He counterattacks, injuring Avdol, and then starts to sink Joseph inside the truck. While Geb is dealing with Old Man Jojo, Jotaro takes the opportunity to go after Ndul, and picks up Iggy on his way.
Because Iggy can smell Geb, he's better at dodging, and the Fool transforms into a glider, and they search for the stand user. Using Star Platinum's long vision, he can see Ndule over a kilometer away.
Star Platinum then grabs Iggy and launches him like a bullet straight for Ndule. This distraction is enough for Jotaro to get in close and knock his block off.
To avoid being interrogated, Ndule uses Geb to blow a hole in his own head. Before he dies, he reveals that his stand is one of 9 named after various Egyptian gods. Jotaro gives Ndule a proper burial, paying his respects, before he and Iggy are picked up by Joseph and the others.
They manage to make their way to Cairo looking for Dio's building. They decide to ask around in a cafe, but the bartender won't tell them unless they buy something.
We'll have 4 iced teas.
Sorry, can't help you.
Wait, I know this episode. I guess we're just going to casually skip Oingo, Boingo, Alessi, Mariah, and Anubis?
Who are they?
5 of the Egyptian gods they talked about last episode.
Isn't that kind of a lot to skip, since they literally just mentioned that there's 8 more Egyptian god stands for them to fight?
Yes. Yes, it is.
We'll ask somewhere else.
I'm familiar with that building.
A patron at the back of the cafe draws their attention and says that he'll only tell them where it is if they agree to gamble with him first. The first bet involves tossing 2 pieces of meat and guessing which piece this cat will go after, left or right. Polnareff guesses right.
Oh, and by the way, what is it I have to pay you if I lose? About £100?
No money. Let's play for something more interesting. Your soul.
Whatever.
Can I bet a gold fiddle instead?
Unfortunately for Polnareff, the cat happened to grab the piece on the left first, but of course took both. That means that his soul now belongs to Darby and his stand, Osiris. So we get to see at least one more Egyptian god this OVA.
Polnareff's soul gets turned into a poker chip, and if they kill Darby, all the souls he's collected will go with him. And I can't help but notice that the animation and art here isn't as good as it was back during Part 1. I know this came out 7 years earlier, but still, it's kind of distracting if you're going by a chronological watch.
At least it's not as bad as Fate Apocrypha.
I'll get to that one later.
The next game is dropping coins into a full glass while trying not to make it overflow. Because Darby cheated at the cat game, Joseph cheats by lightly squeezing more liquor into the cup while he drops in his coin.
Darby takes a bite of a chocolate bar and then moves out of his seat so he can drop the next coin. Somehow the booze doesn't spill. Joseph, completely distraught, loses the bet and his soul is taken too.
Jotaro inspects the glass, finding a smudge of chocolate on the bottom. Darby had stuck it on there right before the game started, and when he moved, the hot sun melted the chocolate, causing the slightly tilted glass to level back out, making it easier for him to drop his coins.
Jotaro was up next, playing poker. He reveals right off the bat that Star Platinum can see every card in the deck, so he'll know if Darby is cheating.
He's not bluffing either. Darby tries a sleight of hand, and Star Platinum breaks his fingers, preventing a 3-of-a-kind winning hand.
To prevent any more mishaps, they ask a random kid to deal for them, but unknown to the Crusaders, Darby has already paid off everyone in the cafe to stack the deck in his favor. Sure, why not? Jotaro loses the first hand, and when they deal the second hand, Jotaro decides to not even look at his cards, and decides to play them as his hand.
As if that wasn't ballsy enough, Jotaro proceeds to not only bet Avdol's soul, but also Kakyoin's soul and Holly's. In addition to that, he has Star Platinum light him up a cigarette and get him a drink so fast that Darby didn't even see it. This unshakable confidence causes the gambler to start questioning whether or not Jotaro was able to cheat a better hand than his 4-of-a-kind. Needless to say, this makes him freak out.
But Darby, I'm going to ask you to see my bet with something that's equal in value to my mother soul. If you lose, you have to reveal the secret of Dio's stand.
Come on! Are you gonna call or fold? Say it out loud right now! Darby!
Darby knows the power of Dio's stand, but the sheer stress from this, and his pride as a gambler, makes him pass out, meaning that based on his stand's ability, he admitted defeat. But what did Jotaro have?
Oh, I thought so! Nothing but garbage!
He bet the lives of 4 people and the entire future on his mission on a garbage hand and won merely by bluffing?
Yep, that is exactly what happened.
Okay, this has to be the single gutsiest thing I've ever seen in an anime.
The loss causes all of Darby's collected souls to be released, and he's just coherent enough to tell them the location of Dio's mansion, but not the power of his stand.
Next episode, they arrive at Dio's hideout, and as they seal themselves for the upcoming fight, Avdol leaves the rest of the coffee gum with Iggy, telling him that he doesn't have to come in if he doesn't want to.
Skipping Iggy's spotlight episode entirely, along with the Horus stand, so that's 6 out of 9 Egyptian gods we've completely just thrown out the window.
For the sake of argument, was that episode actually plot relevant?
Yes! Very much so. A lot happens to Iggy's character. He even loses a foot.
Oh, poor dog. They approach the mansion, but the door opens for them, and they accept Dio's invitation. Checking back in with Holly for the first time in who knows when, she's slipping in and out of a coma, telling her mother, Susie Q, that she believes in Joseph and Jotaro.
The Joestar gang, including Iggy, climb some stairs, skipping Darby's little brother and the last of the 9 Egyptian gods.
They only fought 2 out of 9? If they skipped this much in part 2, I'd hate to see how much I'm missing from part 1. They reach the top of the stairs and find Dio's coffin.
Avdol decides to blast the coffin with fire, and that launches the lid off. They forgot to have the minor character Nukasaku, but whatever. Once the steam from the heat vanishes, they realize that Avdol was inside the coffin and he's been wounded.
You have finally arrived. I must congratulate you all for your efforts.
That's Dio's voice.
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
Blade, you've seen the Jotaro versus Dio fight in the modern anime. You know how Dio carries himself. Do you really think that voice is fitting?
No, I just didn't want to be mean. It's like I mentioned back during part 1 of this review. Most of the voices themselves aren't that bad, but the problem is that everyone is just too dang calm.
Like I said before, everyone's supposed to be louder and over the top. This is the chillest Dio I've ever heard, and that is not a compliment.
His stand, his secret is he's able to...
Do it. Do it.
Get away!
What the...
That's more or less how it happened in the anime, just in the wrong place. While that should be intimidating, the fact that there's no music just makes it look silly. Like he just pulled a prank and checked for everyone's reaction.
Nice prank. A magic trick. He made Avdol disappear.
His name is Iced.
Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. A lot of JoJo characters and stand names are music references, and when they were localized they had to change them for copyright reasons. His real name is Vanilla Ice, even though in the modern anime they localized him as Cool Ice. But if you check his episode title, it still refers to him as Vanilla Ice.
Hey, Iced. I know. Why don't you cut your head off?
Well, that was dumb. If Dio told you to go jump off a bridge, would you do it?
Yes. Yes, he would. Right after Dio uses his vampiric blood to resurrect him. Vanilla Ice's stand is named Cream, and his ability is kinda like an eraser. Anything it touches ceases to exist.
So, Avdol is very dead. Polnareff and Iggy retreat down the tower to fight this new enemy, as Dio promises to fight the Joestars personally. Jotaro gets a running start at Dio, but then he suddenly finds himself at the bottom of the stairs when Dio was just 1 step away.
He still doesn't have the 70 power stars.
An unseen attack from Dio launches Jotaro out of the tower, and we see that the sun is going down, meaning that they're about to be at a disadvantage.
Meanwhile, Polnareff is having a hard time fighting Vanilla Ice. Suddenly, the fool comes barreling at him, plowing him into a wall.
Iggy, get out of here! He's still alive!
Jesus Christ! That's even more brutal than how he died in the anime!
Kill that douchebag, Polnareff! Good riddance. Meanwhile, Kakuin shows up to help out Joseph and collapses the roof of the tower on top of Dio.
But night has fallen, and Dio is now free to go out in the open as he pleases. As Team Joestar flees in a truck, Dio stops the car, breaks the driver's arm, and gets in the back. Hey, Senator Phillips! Of all the things they cut out, I'm surprised this is one of the few things they kept.
Dio beats him up and forces him to drive after Joseph. We find Jotaro taping what looks like splints to his abs, commenting about his broken ribs. He then heads into town looking for Dio.
Traffic brings Dio's ride to a halt, and he pulls a Commissioner Gordon, telling the Senator to mount the curb and drive.
Plus side, he manages to rack up some Halo medals in the process.
Splatter spree, vehicular manslaughter, Sunday driver.
It works, and Dio catches up to them. Hierophant Green tries to stop him, but nothing seems to work. Dio's car is hit by a train, but he and the Senator, or more accurately his corpse, manage to escape the explosion.
Dio throws a Hail Mary using the Senator and smashes the truck. Hello, 7-Up product placement.
And there's Coca-Cola. And Kodak?
I thought shameless product placement was an American thing. This isn't a DC movie.
Calculine set up a web that fires Emerald Splash whenever Dio touches the strands, but Dio then decides to flex on them with his stand.
It just doesn't have the same feeling.
No, it doesn't.
I know I've said it before, but compared to what little bit of JoJo I have seen, this line delivery just pales in comparison to the modern version.
Even using the original Japanese voiceover, it's not as dramatic or meme-worthy. Compare that to the modern version in both English and Japanese.
Behold the world!
I know we brought this up multiple times already, but these last few episodes is where the voice acting really shows how lackluster it is by comparison.
So, Dio Stand, the world, has the ability to stop time for about 5 seconds. Calculine is stuck in a T-pose and the world rams its fist clean through him, sending him flying into a water tower.
Calculine is so shocked that his barrier was destroyed from all sides simultaneously that he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes what happened. In a desperate attempt to get the message to Joseph, he blasts the clock tower. Joseph manages to decipher the message and takes off, trying to find Jotaro, but Dio is in hot pursuit.
You are quite a schemer, aren't you, Joseph?
So, you noticed my wave energy shield, huh?
Your wave energy means nothing to me.
Okay, I at least know what a stand is, but what the heck is wave energy?
He means Hamon.
What's Hamon?
It's an anti-vampire power from the first 2 parts. I cannot believe they just forgot to mention that if they were going to keep the line.
Well, whatever it may be, it doesn't scare Dio. He knocks Joseph into the streets as Jotaro shows up.
Jotaro, the true nature of the world is time.
Alright, stop. I'm sorry, I have got to interject. I know that we've already said the line delivery in this is poor, but put some effort into it. You're being chased by a stand-powered vampire who's immune to your Hamon, and you're Joseph Joestar. Your biggest gimmick in the arc is that you scream too much. Just put a little... Sorry about that. Let's compare this to the modern adaptation. Old Man Jojo is supposed to be desperate to deliver Calculine's message to Jotaro, and shouts at him to keep his distance.
Dio Stand, the world gives him the ability to control time!
Here it sounds like he's loudly whispering it. How can Jotaro hear you over the crowded city streets if you're not yelling?
The same can be said for Dio. It's not necessarily that the voice actor is bad, it's just that the inflections are totally wrong.
Guarding yourself with wave energy won't do you any good, Joseph. 100 years ago, the wave energy was a slight problem for me. But now with the power of the world, it's insignificant!
This is another moment from the modern version that they botched. Dio's infamous Muda 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 knife throw.
This scene itself is a meme, and can be found in many compilations. Here's the anime version. And here's the OVA version with the original Japanese audio.
Not nearly as cool, not nearly as memorable. When time unfreezes, the knife lands in Joseph's throat, and not gonna lie, that looks pretty painful, the way it stabs in first and then blood gushes.
With Joseph down for the count, Jotaro is the last one standing, and we do at least get the iconic "you're approaching me" scene, just less dramatic.
Their fight begins, and because stands are invisible, everything starts exploding around them while the onlookers flee in terror.
The world!
What? Jotaro, what did you do just now?
Why are you alive?
Don't know, but it looks like your stand ain't all it's cracked up to be.
The world!
Star Platinum!
Now, this is one change that I'm actually okay with in this fight. I like the idea of the stand protecting his master when they can't move. In the anime, Star Platinum could move for a few brief moments, but it was almost always just for attacking. This defensive approach makes more sense from a tactical standpoint.
And this movement here is very well executed, as Dio continually freezes time to change location while trying to intimidate Jotaro. He then reveals his plan to turn Jotaro into a pincushion.
The world!
Well, that doesn't look like a lot of fun.
Another small change, which kind of makes more sense than the original, is that the knives were stopped by the splints Jotaro used for his broken ribs. Whereas in the original, he stuffed magazines inside his shirt in case Dio tried throwing things. But that doesn't explain how the knife in his hat didn't kill him.
He was tilting his head back, so it just grazed him, like Abdul.
Dio lands to ensure Jotaro is dead, and Star Platinum stops his heart to make it undetectable.
Well, just to be extra careful, I'll sever his head.
That punch hurt pretty badly, as Dio's not feeling so good. He stops time and a passing car to make his getaway.
However, Jotaro throws 2 knives to knock off the bumper, making Dio fall.
Unlike in the anime where he blew out the tire, making the car crash, like a dick.
Dio tries to get away through a manhole, but Jotaro cuts him off.
I have a point I want to make about this later, so just keep that small part in mind.
Another barrage of Oro-Oros launches Dio down the street, but actually backfires. He landed Dio right next to Joseph's body, letting him take Joseph Joestar's blood.
Oh, that's not good.
I haven't criticized the art for character designs very much, but Ascended Dio just looks boring compared to the original version. They got the spikier hair and bigger muscles right, but the other one just looks way crazier, and more fitting for someone who just got a bigger power boost.
This was the 90s. All the guy characters had to look super buff and masculine and weren't allowed to wear lipstick. The exception is Frieza.
Watch this! Dio, you've done it. You've pissed me off!
Yes, we can tell by how furious you sound.
Even with all of our criticisms, I have to say that this leg of the fight is where the OVA shines brightest. The original fight was pretty straightforward, very much one-on-one. In this version, the fight is much more brutal, with random bystanders getting caught up in the duel. They throw cars and chunks of buildings at each other, and Dio even attempts to drown Jotaro by dropping him into the river and then throwing a boat at him.
I like his style.
Don't even think about it.
But there are still a few problems, mainly the voice. Again, up to this point, we haven't heard Dio's signature Muda Muda Muda, except with the Japanese version of the knife throw, and we haven't heard him screech "re" at all.
So now, for some reason, they decide to have him say Muda Muda every now and then. It's just as painful and soulless as Star Platinum's Ora Ora in this version.
Star Platinum launches a building top at Dio, and they collide in midair. And in a weird piece of editing, this happens.
That didn't make any sense. He blocks a punch, and then he's suddenly falling as if he got knocked down? I'm sorry to keep bringing up the anime version, but the editing made more sense in that episode since Jotaro was launched into the pavement after a volley of kicks knocked him through a building. If we go back, we can even see that this scene is in the OVA, and Dio even shouts Muda Muda here, but that's when he dropped Jotaro in the river. So it's like they animated the fall that's supposed to happen after the kick, but moved it to way later. Look, you can even edit it to match the anime version almost perfectly.
So, while the more intense fight is a nice change, the editing needs work. Jotaro is sent sliding down the highway, and Dio stops time again.
The next time I see your face, I'm probably gonna lose it. I will go totally berserk.
Then how about you actually sound like you're angry? Oh well, I've been waiting for this part. While Jotaro is frozen in time, Dio comes at him with
an oil tanker for you.
What? No! A freaking oil tanker? It's supposed to be a steamroller! That was the best part of the fight! Dio comes barreling at him out of the sky, screaming Road Roller like it's some kind of special attack or something. This scene has become so iconic that it's been used in almost every game that features Dio, is a meme in and unto itself, and is even referenced in Fate Grand Order. Not to mention, a giant steamroller is just way cooler and more deadly than a freaking tanker truck. The giant metal front wheels are more sturdy than a hollow container. This is just a failure on every possible level. Even the boat that Dio threw at Jotaro earlier would have been a better finisher than this.
Calm down, man. It's alright.
How is this alright?
Because we can laugh at Dio's poor dubbing?
Okay, that is pretty silly.
So, the truck explodes and Dio gloats about how he's finally rid himself of the Joestars once and for all. But his celebration is a little premature.
I can't move.
I'm the one who froze time.
Jotaro was able to copy Dio's time stop ability thanks to the similarities between the world and Star Platinum. This is the point I wanted to make earlier. There are small hints peppered throughout the fight that Jotaro might be gaining some sort of time manipulation powers, and I think the OVA handled it a little better than the anime did. Remember the part where Dio tried to escape down a manhole? In the anime, Jotaro was already inside the pipe with a glowy golden aura, just like Dio's. How did he get there that fast unless he could stop time too? The OVA changed it to where Jotaro simply beat Dio to the opening, and it makes it subtle enough to have us thinking that he's gotten a lot faster, without being a complete dead giveaway that he has the time stop ability.
Jotaro breaks Dio's legs, but Dio splashes blood in Jojo's eyes.
Jotaro takes a blind swing to counter Dio's kick, and apparently that was somehow enough to destroy Dio and the world? How does that make any sense at all?
They forgot to mention Dio's left side weakness, didn't they?
Considering I don't know what that is, I'm gonna say yes.
Well, all throughout SDC, Dio mentions that the left side of Jonathan's body is having trouble adjusting to his control. And if you notice, it's the world's left leg used during the final kick. Star Platinum punching that as hard as he can is what destroyed him.
Again, more important information they forgot to mention.
We then cut to a helicopter from the Speedwagon Foundation, with Joseph giving a narration explaining how they gave him a blood transfusion from Dio's remains, and then dropped what's left of him into the Red Sea.
By the way, who is the Speedwagon Foundation?
I'll tell you later.
They make it back to an airport, and Polnareff returns to France, and the Joestars head back to Japan, where Holly wakes up, completely cured now that Dio's been defeated. Our final shot shows Jotaro and Joseph on a plane, and the old man puts a tape into his Walkman, and then it just stops.
So, this is the original anime adaptation of JoJo.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is notoriously famous, but its acclaim did not come from this OVA. While I can't say that this is objectively bad, I stand by what I said at the end of Part 1. If you didn't know that anything else JoJo existed, this would be a lot more enjoyable.
I agree. It feels like it was too caught up in being a 90s anime and cared less about being JoJo. This manga and anime have a very distinct style that is often parodied and referenced, but never duplicated.
This is hilariously ironic, since the 90s was the pinnacle of manly fighting anime like Dragon Ball, Fist of the North Star, Yu Yu Hakusho, heck, even G Gundam came out around the same time. You'd think that this would be the perfect time to adapt JoJo, but it just didn't click.
The OVA did manage to capture the spirit of JoJo in some parts, but on the whole it seems to have missed the mark. My biggest complaint again is the voices. The originals were supposed to be over the top and borderline obnoxious. Even reading the panels of the manga, you can feel more emotion than what we get in this version.
I can appreciate that there was at least an attempt here, and I do like the fighting scenes that we get, and again, the voice casting isn't terrible. It's just the direction that was lousy, and the whole thing felt naked without the right music. You can actually find some fan mashups on YouTube that put the modern music over the OVA scenes and the 2015 voices over the Jotaro vs. Dio fight, and it makes it a lot better.
But to summarize the general feeling we got from this OVA, it's like the "we have it at home" meme.
Hey Rio, can we get JoJo?
We have JoJo at home.
The JoJo at home. Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up.
Well, now that we're done with that, I'm going to show you some real JoJo. Now, that's how JoJo's supposed to be. So what did you think?